You're listening to the CoolCLE Show.
Hello, and welcome to the CoolCLE Show, brought to you by CoolCleveland.com, putting you in touch with cool events, people, news, and neighborhoods in the Cleveland region. This week, we've got two authors of books about Cleveland. Jeffrey Stroup, a photographer, talks about his first book of stunning visuals called Abandoned Cleveland. And Fran Belkin of former Cleveland music promotion company Belkin Productions shares with us her memories of putting together Rock This Town, Backstage in Cleveland. Both books are available now at all reputable booksellers. We also have new music from two Akron acts, country singer Erica Dawn and rock band Librarians with Hickeys, so stay tuned. But first, here's some events that I think should be on your calendar. Stella's Music Club is hosting a launch party for its record label on December 12th. Its first signed bands will be providing entertainment, and they are the Black Moods, a rock band from Arizona, Disconnected, an alt-rock band from Cleveland, Pale Hollow, an Americana alternative country band from Cleveland, Birds in the Boneyard, and a pop band from New York, and the Tonyland Band, also from Cleveland. There's an interesting sounding, pardon the pun, event happening on December 13th at St. John's Episcopal Church in Ohio City. The band Item will be hosting an evening of meditative and ambient Christmas music, an event that they're calling I'm Dreaming of a White Noise, in which they'll be reimagining Christmas standards into these ambient works, pushing the music to unfamiliar and unexplored realms, but still retaining some familiarity for the audience. You can head down to Western Reserve Harley-Davidson and Mentor for photos with the Grinch on December 15th. The Grinch will be there taking free photos with anyone that stops by the dealership from 1 to 3 p.m. You can meet Liz Farrow, author of the upcoming book Girls with Soul, that's spelled S-O-L-E, at Barnes & Noble in Woodmere on Saturday, December 15th at 2 p.m. The book will guide readers through the process of reinventing and unleashing their inner superhero, and it will provide young girls with the tools to becoming a badass rock star super version of themselves. Cedar Lee Theater is showing the Polar Express 3D on December 16th for only $1 admission. There's a couple of gospel music events happening on December 16th. You've got the Gospel Brunch at the House of Blues at 11 a.m. This is a spectacular experience showcasing local talent, performing both traditional and more contemporary gospel songs. And of course, you can treat yourself to an amazing all-you-can-eat buffet. Also included in your ticket purchase is a $1 donation to Music Forward, a national nonprofit organization channeling the power of music to help undeserved youth create pathways to productive, sustainable, and fulfilling lives. And then in the evening on the 16th at the Bop Stop is the Gospel Music Historical Society's Evening of Christmas Music. Performing will be two of Cleveland's legendary gospel artists, the Master Keys and the Golden Echoes, each with over 60 years of singing experience. Rebranding the City, a humanizing tour of Akron, is a series of theatrical vignettes shaped as a tour trying to convince people to come to and stay in Akron. The play, which happens on December 16th from 6:30 to 8 p.m., is based from interviews with people from Akron's 24 neighborhoods and serves as a humorous and sometimes serious, self-reflective look at where Akron came from, where it is now, and where it plans to go. Now we have music from country artists from Akron, Erica Dawn. She just released her second EP album, This Bottle, and this is the latest single from her called The Way You Love Your Truck.
Always dressed in black and touching her 1,000 times. I'm through with thirsting for your touch and running empty on your time. Wish you reversed to when you left me, but now you have lost your drive. If we never see forever, darling, now you stay stuck. 'Cause I know you'll never love me like the way. The way you love your truck. 'Cause I know you'll never love me like the way you love your truck. The way you love your truck. That stupid mother truck.
Jeffrey Stroup, a local photographer, released his first book on November 26th. It's called Abandoned Cleveland, and it documents a multitude of abandoned structures. Today, Cleveland is experiencing a bit of a renaissance. However, it's not difficult to find the decaying reminders of our city's dramatic rise and fall. It's these relics of the city's past that Jeffrey strives to capture and preserve through the images in his book. Here's my conversation with him recorded just prior to the book's release. All right, I'm very pleased to say that we have Jeffrey Stroup with us. He's a photographer, and he also is an explorer and a traveler, according to his Instagram. And he's put together some pretty amazing photos of abandoned Cleveland in what will be the title of that book, Abandoned Cleveland, which is available on November 26th. Thank you so much for joining us, Jeffrey.
Thank you.
So tell me, how did this come about?
The book, the book was something that I've always wanted to do. I mean, ever since I was young, I thought the idea of being, a published author was such a cool and exciting thought. Never really put any effort into it at all. But I just happened to receive an email, early 2018, saying, "Hey, we like your photos. Have you ever considered doing a book? We would like to work with you." So I jumped on the opportunity.
So this whole idea of kind of taking, I was sort of looking through Instagram as I was prepping for our talk, and the whole hashtag abandoned and taking pictures of abandoned places is kind of popular right now. There's about 4,000 plus, including your photos, of hashtag abandoned Cleveland alone. What do you think lures people to these abandoned places?
It's a tough question because I think everyone has their own motivations. Generally, I think people enjoy the shock of seeing places that, we're familiar with, hospitals, schools, these buildings that, we're all familiar with in our everyday lives, but to see them in such a decayed and ruined state is kind of shocking. And I think people, they enjoy taking photos of it. They enjoy seeing it firsthand. Now, for me personally, I'd say curiosity more than anything. It's just, you see these places and they're, usually pretty boarded up, or, they're not places that you typically go. And so, curiosity just hits me and says, what does it look like inside of there? What's that building like on the inside? What sort of secrets does it hold? So.
So, what sorts of places did you are featured in the book?
I tried to feature as many different types of locations as possible. So it's everything from schools, lots of churches, houses and apartment buildings, factories, basically, any type of building that can be abandoned and can be found in the city of Cleveland is represented somewhere in that book. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty shocking, like you say. I mean, these places at one point were used and now they're not, and they're full of often they still have I know the cover of the book looks like a church. Could you describe maybe just the cover for us and kind of how you sort of put together the framing of the photo?
Sure. Yeah, the cover is, like you said, it's a church. It's probably one of the most ornate and sort of, well, to go back to the word shocking, so it's one of the most shocking of the abandoned churches in Cleveland. You know, the amount of work that went into building that church, you know, some 100 years ago, is just unparalleled. And to see it in this rough, haggard, you know, neglected state, is just, it's something you almost can't wrap your head around. And so I wanted to lead with that sort of image, that sort of, you know, wow factor of, I can't believe we let something so beautiful decay so much.
And sort of nature kind of takes over these places really quickly in some cases, you know, which I think is interesting, how sort of nature just sort of starts to take it all back when people aren't around.
Yeah, it's quite poetic that way, isn't it? I mean, yeah, nature wastes no time in sort of reclaiming what's rightfully hers.
So what did you learn about Cleveland in your exploring of these abandoned places?
You know, it's so much because, you know, I mean, I think we all, you know, we know some of the big, you know, historical, you know, events in Cleveland, and we recognize some of the larger, you know, pieces of historic architecture that we have here in the city. But so many of these places are they're, you know, small neighborhood churches. They're you know, places that were unique to, you know, those communities, not necessarily, you know, these great iconic places in the city. And so it's interesting how each neighborhood is reflected and represented in these places. And so learning about the backstory to these buildings, you also learn about that unique, you know, neighborhoods, you know, culture and upbringing.
Obviously, I would not recommend, and I'm sure you wouldn't either, just anybody going and exploring abandoned places, because I'm sure there's a lot of safety aspects. But if there are people that, you know, fancy themselves a bit of a amateur photographer, which there are a lot of out there, is there any advice you have about, you know, people maybe wanting to explore for themselves, how they can do that safely, legally, if these are private properties? Any thoughts on that?
You know, I mean, as far as the legal issue goes, let's just let that one kind of you know, slide under the rug, and because there's not usually a great way to do this legally. It's not easy to go through the proper channels, let me put it that way. You know, most of the owners of these buildings, you know, they're in this abandoned state because they're not cared about.
Yeah.
You know, the owners, you know, owe tens of thousands of dollars in back taxes. Half the time they don't even realize that they own these properties. They're big, huge, out of state, sometimes out of country, you know, conglomerates. They don't care about these properties, and they're certainly not going to, you know, take your phone call and say, oh yeah, go ahead,
sure,
you know, we'll send somebody over to unlock the door for you. And but that aside, you know, there are obvious, you know, safety measures that you can take to, you know, reduce any dangers. And you know, one of the things is, you know, I always, you know, I let my wife know, you know, where I'm going. You know, I try to go with other people. You know, there's safety in numbers. A lot of these places I go to first thing in the morning, you know, with the idea or the hope that most people are still sound asleep and, you know, wouldn't want to follow me into the building and rob me of my camera equipment. Yeah, I mean, they're dangerous old buildings. I mean, they're condemned, they're falling apart. You know, just being aware of your surroundings and, you know, I don't know. I guess that's the best.
That's some good tips. Yeah,
risk.
absolutely. So yeah, that's great. So Jeffrey, thank you so much for sharing your story of you exploring these abandoned places and documenting them in this book called Abandoned Cleveland. You can check it out. You can pre-order it now at Amazon.com. And if you're listening to the show after November 26th, then it is available to purchase. So congratulations, Jeffrey, on your first book.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And thanks for joining us and telling us about it.
Absolutely.
That's Jeffrey Stroup, author of Abandoned Cleveland. Next up is an Akron band called Librarians with Hickeys with a new single release, And Then She's Gone. That was Akron's Librarians with Hickeys with their latest release, And Then She's Gone. You can download it from its Bandcamp. Fran Belkin's collection of t-shirts wound up in boxes in the attic until one day she realized these mementos chronicling over 30 years of Cleveland rock and roll history could illustrate the incredible story of her most unusual family business, Belkin Productions. The shirts and the swag paint a picture of the times, the music, the bands, and the concert promotion company her husband Jewel and his brother Mike built into a powerhouse on the national music scene. In Rock This Town, Fran's collection is artfully woven together with vintage snapshots, concert photography, and some intimate stories shared by the Belkin Productions crew who lived them. We spoke to her earlier about the book. All right, we're now joined by Fran Belkin. She has her book out called Rock This Town, Backstage in Cleveland, Stories You Never Heard and Swag You Never Saw. Thank you so much, Fran, for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
So I heard that this book kind of started off with you rummaging around in your attic and uncovering a load of old rock t-shirts that I guess you guys would have made back in the day when you were promoting the mini concerts that you guys booked in the Cleveland area. So what sparked deciding to write this book?
Well, when I found this box and I unpacked all these shirts and took a look at them, and I realized that they told a history not just of Belkin Productions, but of Cleveland at a very special time when we had one of the most powerful radio stations in the country, WMMS. And between the radio station and the booming of this new music and our company, it was just such a special time, and Cleveland was at the forefront. Every band had to play Cleveland. So I decided that I was going to record the history using these t-shirts, because we only made like 20 or 30 just for the band, their crew, and maybe our office. And since that was my job to put that through to get it done, I saved one of each one that I made. So we decided to photograph them and make a little book, and then it turned out that the history got bigger and bigger, and everybody wanted to give me stories. So anyhow, that's the long story.
Was there anything particular that as you sort of reminisce, was there any particular sort of memory that just kind of made you stop and laugh, to be reminded of some of those stories?
Well, there were several things. I think one of the things that always stands out in my mind is that we made a shirt for Bruce Springsteen, and Bruce had planned his entire tour around Cleveland. He wanted to be here on New Year's Eve to thank the Cleveland audiences for being so faithful. And we made this beautiful shirt. I had it embroidered on the back. It said, "Bruce, the boss." And when we gave it to him, his manager says, "Don't ask Bruce how he likes that shirt. He hates being called the boss. You should have never put it on the shirt."
Wow.
So, I mean, that was not one of my successes. I had to laugh. So the next time Bruce came back, we made a sweatshirt that listed the dates and had some cute graphics. He loved that one. He put it right on and enjoyed it.
Oh. Thank you so much, Fran, for joining us and telling us about your book.
Thank you. It was fun to be on.
That was Fran Belkin, author of Rock This Town. You can see her at a number of book signing events in the area, including December 15th at J3 Clothing in Pepper Pike and the Learned Owl in Hudson, and then on December 16th at Barnes & Noble in Mentor. You can find more event details on rockthistownbook.com. And that's it for this week. Thank you to Jeffrey Stroup and Fran Belkin for coming on the show to talk about their books, and to Erica Dawn and Librarians with Hickeys for the music, and to you for listening. This is the CoolCLE Show, brought to you by CoolCleveland.com. Have a good one.